Today on the Calo podcast, according to ABC News, RFK Jr. is expected to drop out of the race on Friday and possibly even endorse Donald Trump. Wow. We're going to get more information on what that actually means for the race in just a moment. Also, a lot is happening at the DNC right now, but instead of just recapping all the mundane details, we're going to show you some of the craziest moments thus far.
And finally, which theological tradition is best? Eastern Orthodoxy, Catholicism, or Reformed Theology? That's today's question on Ask Pastor Mike. All this and more today on the Calo podcast.
So to start off the DNC, listen, let's just go with one of the best clips out there. This woman is doing some poetry.
We gather at this hallowed place because we believe in the American dream. We face a race that tests if this country we cherish shall perish from the earth, and if our earth shall perish from this country.
Did you hear when she opened, she said, hallowed?
Yeah, hallowed. What grounds are hallowed?
But the funny thing is, she should have said hallowed if she was trying to say, like, sanctified or...
Yeah. I think she plagiarized this.
I don't know about that, but
It's so bad, I don't think she did. I don't know.
For someone whose job it is to simply write words and speak them, you would think she'd be able to know the difference between hallowed and hollowed.
Would
you say something about the earth falling away from our country?
The earth falling away from...
How does that work?
I think this is great.
Yeah.
It's just a good example of, the ability of the Democrats to put together something, like war. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I wonder if this woman will have anything to do with it. Maybe she'll be in the ready room.
She should. She has a talent for speaking.
And then we
Nice
have this clip from Dana Bash of CNN. She's talking about all the men at the DNC, and the way she describes them, it's hilarious because it sums it up pretty well.
But they are doing so in trying to put forward male figures, Tim Walz being one of them, Doug Emhoff last night, who can speak to men out there who might not be the sort of testosterone-laden, gun-toting kind of guy who wants to listen to Hulk Hogan and the kind of players that came out at the RNC, or might want to listen to that, but also, in addition, understand that it's okay in 2024 to be a man comfortable in his own skin who supports a woman. And that's something that they really are trying to work on with male voters beyond the base.
Well, no, she summed it up pretty good. Tim Walz and Kamala's husband, they are pretty squishy. They're kind of...
Yeah, they are. Yeah, what's up with... Well, we're going to get to Walz, aren't we?
Yeah,
Somewhere along the line. Yeah, we will.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
it's just...
I'll save this.
All right.
Yeah, well, what she's trying to say is, and she's, being very careful with her language because you can't come out and say it. She's saying womanish men, basically.
Yeah.
They're very feminine.
Yeah.
And the Democrat establishment is trying to appeal to these guys because if you look, they're not like Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz. They're not the most masculine men out there for sure.
Yeah. Why didn't she just say it straight out? They're a little, limp-wristed and that's it,
Yeah.
But they're okay with that.
That's who they're trying to appeal to.
There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
She said they're going after men who aren't gun-toting,
Testosterone-filled gun-toting. I like the one with the hat.
So this is an awesome clip. It's so there's this guy, he's on the right here. He's dressed up as a white dude for Kamala, and he's being interviewed by what we assume to be the BBC. It's awesome. We'll just watch the clip.
What brought you out here today? No, listen, my name is Noah Shorts. I use he, they pronouns. I'm just really excited that we have, the first black woman that could be the president of the United States. And, my wife, right, we're in a polyamorous relationship. The lover that my wife took is African-American. And, I've learned so much about the struggle that people of color go through as a result of my wife's boyfriend. And so I'm excited to really do my part to show solidarity for my marginalized communities. And, the best way to do that is to get the first woman of color to be the commander-in-chief. And I'm really excited. I'm so pumped. Were you this pumped and excited when Joe Biden was the nominee? I mean, listen, like, I would vote for a corpse over voting for Donald Trump because he's a disgusting fascist, white supremacist pig. But now, like, you know, we get to really make history. We have, you know, like I said, we have the first woman of color to be president of the United States, and, like, you know, our country, it was founded on the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And in Kamala Harris, there's nothing embodies those values more than a Kamala Harris presidency. So I'm pumped, like, I'm ready. You know, I am so excited. I'm a proud white dude for Kamala Harris, baby. Let's go. Woo!
So this guy is not really for Kamala?
No, it turns out he's a parody. So when I first watched it, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I was watching, I was like, I don't know, he could be real. I mean, there are people who are crazy enough to be like that.
Yeah, if you watch it till the end, you can kind of tell he's...
Yeah, I watched the second time around, and he's going on about Trump being a fascist pig and all that, and it's just too on the nose. So, yeah, I don't think it's real.
Yeah, well, I also looked up his Twitter. He's a Republican, or at least a conservative, but it's
Okay.
just so funny.
Yeah, that was a funny clip. And then outside the DNC, they had all these protests going on for people supporting Hamas.
So I'm kind of confused who they're going to be voting for.
Yeah, I think they are too, because there was this group, I don't remember what it was called, Palestinians for Harris or something, and it's an American group dedicated to getting people to vote for Harris. And then they looked at what was happening at the DNC, and this couple who has their children are still being held hostage in Gaza got up and spoke at the DNC. So this group actually disbanded and said, yeah, we're not supporting Kamala Harris anymore because she's not going hardline enough for Hamas, basically.
Wow. Yeah, I have a sense that a lot of them are just not going to vote
I think so.
at all, which is probably a good thing for the whole election.
I think so. Yeah, for sure.
You know, because most of them just don't have any clue anyhow.
Well, like I said last week, it's a wedge issue, and it doesn't look like, I mean, I don't know how, if you're the Democrat establishment, how you calculate this. How do you win? Because you're going to lose your donors if you go hardline for Gaza.
Yeah.
But you're going to lose your base if you choose to side with with Israel.
Well, the problem is they embraced the wrong people of their base.
Yeah.
They're trying to embrace these crazies, but they're actually a small percentage of the overall voters.
Right.
And so why would you want to embrace that? Which it never made sense to me right from the very beginning. But in any case,
Well, part of me thinks that
Which
these that these protests are sort of planned. So it makes Kamala and the Democrats seem like, you know, they're not this crazy, you know, like there's all these people are crazy, but the Democrats are kind of moderate, you know, because they're not.
Oh, that's a pretty good point. What's the other part of you think?
The other part of me thinks these people are real and actually aren't going to support Kamala.
I have the sense that they are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
They just have nothing else better to do. I mean, most of them are actually getting paid because we know that there are forces out there that are, you know, supplying money to protesters. I mean, how did these people live? How did they get water? It's kind of like how did the migrants make their way, you know, thousands of miles? And here they got clean clothes.
Yeah.
They got cell phones that work without chargers. What did they charge them along the way? Was there a tree charger like somewhere every 1,000 feet, you know, or something? No, of course not. They were getting help the whole way. And these people are getting help.
But even then, I mean, you can see all the police officers and whatnot.
Yep.
I mean, if the Democrats didn't want these people here, I'm sure they wouldn't be here allowed to protest.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point also, you know, so they want them there as a distraction. Like you said, maybe, you know, well, we're not as crazy as they are. I mean, so they're drawing a line of distinction against their own voters. I don't know. None of it, when you put it all together, makes sense. But then neither does the Democratic platform, which we don't really know what that is, or do we?
Not really, although
Not yet.
Harris has come out with some of her economic proposals. I'm just going to go through a few here. The first one was she proposed a $6,000 tax credit. But the funny thing is she did that right after J.D. Vance announced his $5,000 tax credit.
Of course.
And so she's like, okay, I'm just going to one-up you on this one. It's nothing new. I mean, she can't.
No.
All of their new policies are basically rip-offs of what Trump has said moments
Everything.
before.
No tax on tips.
Yeah.
They rip that off. I mean, this is what they do. And the media gives them cover.
Yep.
So nobody's calling them out on it. The average voter has no clue.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, that's a great idea, because they never heard Trump, because they never listened to conservative talk radio or,
Right.
God forbid, Fox News or,
Right.
Newsmax or somewhere where
Right.
they would get that information. So they're getting it firsthand
Mm-hmm.
from leftist media, and people don't know any better.
Yeah.
Well, what we know so far is Harris at least once said she supports the Green New Deal, which some have estimated would cost up to $93 trillion to implement. So that's number one. Number
Crazy.
two is she says she wants price controls to combat inflation caused by the Democrats, although she doesn't say that last part. And I'm sure like price controls are not a good thing. It just
Yeah.
creates massive issues, which will end up creating black markets, and it'll just end up with food shortages and bread lines, in essence.
Absolutely. Well, the revised numbers for unemployment just came out, and of course they're revised down by nearly 1 million.
Yes.
So what are they doing? Nothing good.
No.
Yeah.
Nothing good.
No, and I saw a clip of Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, and she's being interviewed, and the interviewer asks her about these numbers, and she says, she says, the numbers are down by over 800,000, and the labor secretary, she says, Trump said that and it's a lie. And then the interviewer responds and says, well, no, the Department of Labor just released those statistics. And she's like, I'm not familiar with that.
Right. No, of course they're not familiar with it, because it's a fact.
Yeah.
They're not familiar with facts. They're already familiar with, conjecture and lies, because that's all
Right.
they know.
Right.
And then let's see, we have a clip of the Iowa governor, J.B. Pritzker, I believe, railing about how he's a real billionaire and Donald Trump is not.
Donald Trump thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire.
Yeah, and how did you get there?
Trump is rich in only one thing: stupidity.
Yeah, he's going to pay for that.
Yeah, well, Trump is 33% richer than this guy. Trump's,
It's not even close.
Yeah, Trump's his net worth is at like 5.6 billion right now, and this guy's is 3.5, I think. Mm-hmm. And so this guy in 1999, I believe it was, inherited about the equivalent of $2 billion, and Trump inherited about $400 million at the time when his father died, equivalent to about $1 billion now. So Trump took that billion, turned it into 5.5. This guy inherited $2 billion and turned it into 3.5.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's take this guy's advice on the economy, right?
He looks like he enjoys a lot of McDonald's too.
He loves McDonald's. Want a Big Mac?
And for the next clip, we have this CNN analyst saying, well, we'll just watch the clip and we'll talk about it after.
In all these speeches, as good as they were, is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow, it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign.
Yeah, I think
Absolutely clear.
I think this guy's a Republican. I saw another clip of him with this group, but it's funny how silent the rest of the people are.
Well, what can they say? Because it's a fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're certainly not going to agree, and they can't disagree. So
No, they're not going to say very much, and they usually never do. They kind of beat around the bush, but they don't want to get to the clear point, which is Kamala Harris is just as responsible as Biden. As vice president, she has a voice. She has part of the pulpit. She has the ability to be able to get up and speak to the American people. She was, whether she wants to admit it or not, the border czar.
Yeah.
And as czar, did nothing.
Right. But Biden gave her presidential authority over the border, and she did nothing at all.
Nothing at all. So,
and she claims she's going to be hard on the border once she's elected.
yeah, facts are facts, and they're not distorted except by the news media of today.
Right. I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think that Biden will resign or have the 25th Amendment invoked before the election?
Now that's a great question because I really wanted to talk about that today.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. I don't. I take most things with a grain of salt. I've had a few people out there, come up with what they call prophecy, and they add up the numbers. Like 48, 47, 46. And biblically speaking, 12 is a very significant number. So 48 would add up to 12. And that would be a number of completion and wholeness and all this other stuff. But 47 is one shy of that, which is what Trump would be if he were elected. So a lot of these so-called prophets, what they're saying is, well, the possibility is that, Kamala could become president, whether Biden steps down or, keels over, one or the other. But personally, I have this sense that the Democrats are going to push for Biden to get out one way or the other. Maybe slip a Mickey or something. I don't know. But one way or the other. And let me tell you why. Because if she becomes president, now you're basically voting for the incumbent.
Yeah.
In essence. She's president. So now you're just voting for her for another term.
Right.
Because most people are ignorant and they're uninformed voters. Oh, well, it's President Harris now. What's the difference? Let's just vote for her again.
Yeah.
And so that's another edge, another way of rigging or stealing the election.
But the only problem with that is, as vice president, she's able to hide a lot more. Biden's done more. He's been asked more questions, harder questions than Kamala over the past however long she's been the nominee.
Let's face it, Biden hid, even though it was during a pandemic, Biden hid in the basement. And Kamala has avoided everything for a whole month, more than that.
Do you think she could,
6
though,
weeks.
if she was...
Oh, I think she still
became
could
president?
because the media is going to give her cover.
Yeah.
So she could be president, but she could still avoid everything.
Suppose,
Yeah.
And then point to, what they did was, give the lead to people like Schumer and others, AOC, Bernie, and let them do all the talking, but she doesn't say this. So later she can always disavow it.
True.
Well, it wasn't me. I didn't say that. That's
Also,
not really my plan.
I think if Biden has the chance, he's going to hang on to power as long as he can because they pushed him out, and you can tell from the way he acted at the DNC. He's not happy with the party. They all chanted, "Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe."
We love Joe.
He was an angry old man.
Well, they chanted, "We love Joe," but then when they said "Thank you, Joe," he realized they're thanking me for dropping out of the race, and you could see his demeanor. He's like,
just see
he's not
Pelosi.
"Oh no, I missed that one."
Pelosi, thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my God, just watching her mouth, it was sickening.
Well, he never liked Kamala, and Kamala never liked him. Like in 2020, the primary debates between him and Kamala, they were pretty heated.
It was pretty heated. She said some pretty nasty things, pretty straightforward, truthful things.
Yeah, she called him a racist.
Called him a racist.
And then right after, it's like, oh, well, that was just a debate. I didn't mean it was just a debate.
Well, she avoided the debate on, obviously, on Fox News. She's not going to do that.
Yeah.
Unless somehow she gets embarrassed into it, which I don't think is going to happen. And the next debate is going to be a softball for her. They're going to try to paint, Trump as, not respecting a woman and, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
This is the game that they play. But yet, I think if we stick to the facts, we've got a very good chance of blowing this thing wide open.
Yeah, it's not over yet, for sure.
No, it's not over till the fat lady sings. I don't know which fat lady's going to be singing. I didn't see any yet in the DNC, but
No, I didn't either.
there was a couple that could fit the bill. But
What I did see, though, and a lot of people found this very funny, Nat Walsh, he went into the DNC. He's releasing a new movie, called Am I a Racist? And he dressed up as his character in that movie.
yeah,
And he's in this clip here, he's behind Chuck Schumer being interviewed on CNN.
One of the things she pushed, which we succeeded in, was $35 insulin for our senior citizens. Now we're going to get it for everybody.
What's your response when Trump takes credit of that?
Trump takes credit for so many things he doesn't do and gets the blame for a lot of things he does do. He's lost his bearings, as we can see day by day.
Oh man, that's so funny. He was going around DNC and people were taking pictures of him, and it was all over Twitter. And that's awesome.
Yeah, he was handing out these cards for Project 2025 because all the Democrats were saying that it's the worst thing ever. And so when you go to project2025.com, it links to his movie.
The trailer to his movie.
The trailer to his movie. So he was basically advertising.
they
for that.
kind of did a great job with that.
Yeah.
That's right.
I
Look-
mean-
look at Schumer. You see how old he got?
Yeah.
I mean, he is definitely old, and they got him painted up pretty good there. He's got a lot of makeup on.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember him from that long ago because young. But did he look a lot different when he was younger?
He's a dinosaur, believe me. He's got to go. This guy's got to go. But they're all, they're all the same. They're basic dinosaurs in the Democrat Party, and people are hanging on, for dear life because they love the power.
Yeah,
that's really all. So this guy loves cameras. Anywhere there's a camera,
he's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
But so we've got that was a funny clip from the DNC, but I've got another one here. It's I don't know what was up with this guy, but he was given an opportunity to speak when he can't speak. So I'll show you that clip now.
In 2008, we met while working on the Obama-Biden campaign.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, she's translating.
Yeah, right?
Huh? Oh, my God. I need that translator. She's great.
How could you understand? There's no.
Huh? Listen, people make fun of people in church that talk in tongues.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is a babbling whatever.
There's
Give me
no
a
way.
break.
I'm sorry.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong,
No,
but there's no
man.
way you can translate that.
No, he's just like a show. They brought him up there for show.
Yeah.
To make
so
everyone
people
feel
can
bad.
Go, look at this poor guy. And then she gets up and speaks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's probably inside going, that's not what I said.
He was saying Trump.
Yeah. Actually, that might be what he was saying. I don't know. We might want to try to blow the volume up a little bit higher. He might have been Trump.
Yeah. That's what he was saying.
You idiots.
Well, speaking of Trump, I don't know if y'all caught this clip, but Trump was in Michigan and he's asked a question by a reporter, and his response is just golden.
Who was here in 2021? Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
So in case you didn't hear it, the audio was kind of hard to hear, but
he's getting smarter.
Yeah, the reporter's asking him why he's in this town, which is an allegedly racist town.
Yeah.
He comes back and says, who was here in 2021?
Yeah.
And the reporter's like, Joe Biden? He's like, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He's learning. Look, you don't want to argue with these people. What you want to do is just put them in their place.
Yes. It's the only thing that works with them.
Yeah.
Right.
It does.
And then we have a report from ABC saying that RFK Jr. is going to drop out of the race on Friday and endorse Donald Trump. This is his running mate, Nicole Shannon, on Fox News, talking about the possibility before the report came out.
It's Bobby's decision. I came into this supporting him wholeheartedly to win this election. Mm-hmm. And I have to say there's only one party that has obstructed a fair election for us. And unfortunately, it was the Democratic Party. They've done everything they can, including creating PACs to prevent us from being able to have ballot access.
Yeah, it's interesting because you were saying that you could stay in and run the risk of Kamala Harris win, or you could walk and you could join forces with Donald Trump.
Let me tell you, this is when I first heard it, I said, I don't know, because it's one of those things. He's basically an outcast in his own family already.
Yeah.
He's an outcast with the Democrat Party. So the more I pondered this thing and kind of looked at it from all ends, I think the best thing he could do is boldly endorse Donald Trump and stick it to the Democrats, because he's never going to have an opportunity again with the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has gone so far to the left that, he's don't get me wrong, he's a leftist.
Oh, yeah.
But he's not as far crazy as the rest of them.
No,
So,
he's more moderate. I mean,
if you could say that.
If you go back 20 years, this guy's a radical.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
Now he's considered a moderate.
Yeah.
Trump, I'm just going to read a quote from him. He had a Fox News interview, and his response to it was, "So I've known him for a long time. As you know, he's a little different. He's a little bit of a different kind of guy, very smart guy, and a very good person. If he endorsed me, I would be honored by it," Trump said. "He really has his heart in the right place. He's a respected person. Women love him. Women love some of his policies, and I guess some people don't like some of his other policies." So it seems like Trump is open to this. They'll
Oh,
probably
yeah.
give him a position in his cabinet.
He'd be crazy if he wouldn't be open to it. I mean, anybody, really. Let's face it, if you take their good qualities, okay, this guy has exposed a lot with the medical community, for instance, and you put him in an area like that, where he's like an oversight watchdog bulldog, over people like Fauci that were once in there,
Take Fauci's position.
I mean, I think he could do a fairly decent job, as long as there were some reins, on what he can actually do. But why not? I wouldn't be afraid of that. I mean, listen, at this point, I wouldn't be afraid of Fat Man coming back in and endorsing Donald Trump and Donald giving him a position, not a cabinet position, but something in the government, to keep him occupied and busy.
I don't know how much he benefits.
Food czar.
I don't know how much Chris Christie actually benefits the campaign or the administration, but I see your point.
I don't know either. But look, if you could bring in a few people that still like him, and it's a few more. Because at this point, we've got to take anybody we can get.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Let's face it. Like, never Nikki. I would have never. But the more I thought about it, I realized this is a good move.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think... I mean, the White House is a pretty old building. I think if Christie was allowed in there, he might. He's a big dude. I don't know. I think that's dangerous. That's putting Trump.
They'd have to reinforce some things.
Yeah, because that's putting Trump in danger.
But it's going to make Trump look healthier,
for sure.
Because anytime you have a photo op, just put Christie next to you, and you look great.
Yeah,
I'm losing weight. Nobody would know any different
for sure.
So we got another crazy moment here. This is of AOC railing against Donald Trump.
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day to lift working people out from under the boots of greed, trampling on our way of life.
Wow. The accent she gets near the end is hilarious.
Yeah, her accent she starts to put on an accent like Kamala Harris does.
She is an irritating person.
Oh, man.
There's no doubt about it.
To say the least. I mean...
But she'd be a good bartender. So
I guess.
She might want to go back to that.
Yeah.
And then we have a clip here of Bernie. He's summing up what the Democrats want for 2024 or 2025 and beyond if Kamala Harris is elected.
Brothers and sisters, bottom line, we need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class. My fellow Americans, when 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck, the top 1% have never, ever had it so good. And these oligarchs tell us we shouldn't tax the rich. The oligarchs tell us we shouldn't take on price gouging. We shouldn't expand Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision. And we shouldn't increase Social Security benefits for struggling seniors. Well, I've got some bad news for them. That is precisely what we are going to do.
Yeah, basically take the money from the rich and give it to the poor, and redistribution of wealth. And all of these ideas, far left, not even socialist, actually communist ideas, are where Bernie is coming from.
Yeah. What do you think about a constitutional amendment that says we have to balance our budget?
A constitutional amendment to balance the budget is a great thing.
Some states actually have that in their state constitutions.
We could have had that and should have had that many times in the past. But the only reason why it was, tabled and pushed off is because, let's face it, Washington is all about money.
Yeah.
Republicans and Democrats. They go into office in order to get power and money, the majority. And that's really all it's about. They go in and get wealthy.
Yeah.
So Washington is about redistribution to them and their families. So the 65% they want to give us more. Bernie was during the DNC was saying, well, during the pandemic, we gave $1,400 and some odd dollars to every man, woman, and child. Yeah, of my money.
Yeah.
Of taxpayers' money, you gave to everybody $1,400. Big deal. What is $1,465 even to a family of 2.5? What is that? It's nothing. A few $1,000 does nothing, but it makes them look good. And in the meantime, they got millions upon millions of dollars for all their pet projects.
Yeah. I mean, this guy here, if you look back at Bernie Sanders' speeches from, 10 years ago, you'll hear him say he'll rail against the millionaires and the billionaires. If you listen to him now, he only rails against the billionaires because he's a millionaire.
He's a multimillionaire.
Yeah. So he doesn't say millionaires anymore because, he is one.
That's right.
And it's pathetic where he says 60% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, under the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden administration.
Yeah, especially.
So let's vote in 4 more years of 60%.
There's always going to be, lower middle class and low income people. There's always going to be. What the Democrat Party has always been trying to do, what I think politics in general is geared towards, is eliminating the middle class. So it'll be either rich or poor. The poor will rely totally on the government. And Bernie, all his programs and everything he announced here at the DNC is more government.
Yeah.
More government. We want to protect you from the cradle to the grave, as Sean says all the time on his TV show, that they want to control our lives from beginning to end.
Yep.
And even after you're dead, right now there's inheritance tax. That all these taxes that they put on in order to try to keep the rich richer and the poor poorer.
Well, yeah, if you take their price gouging measures that they're trying to put into place to prevent them, which is basically price capping. Yeah. Once you cap the prices, let's say on food, you start there. Okay, what happens when the distributors of the food raise their prices? The government goes in and caps that too.
Yes.
And you get this snowball effect where eventually the government owns, in essence, the entire supply chain.
Everything.
And so you're stuck because there's no way to get that back without a revolution, which it
actually started back in the 80s. I know Reagan was somewhat responsible for it, but they started paying farmers not to farm.
Yeah.
So we have all this land and everything else. The farmers get paid not to farm. Now I understand the principle behind it, but the problem is for a short period of time, it might have been good when there was issues but you have to let the free market reign, because without free market reign, government gets more and more control. And the more control government gets, the less the average person has in their pocket.
Yeah. Well, even that, when the government does take over like they did in the Soviet Union, everything collapsed. It's not like they take it over and the system runs worse. It doesn't run at all. People just can't eat anymore.
If Kamala becomes president of the United States, by hook or by crook, because I think that's the only way it's going to happen, if she does become president, within 24 months, America will be in an irreversible state of decline. That's my prediction. Yeah. I would say that loud and clear to just about anybody. We will be in an irreversible state where only the wealthy will survive. Middle class will be crushed, literally, if they haven't prepared.
Yeah, for sure. And before we move on from the DNC and close, I saw a video was going all over Twitter of a guy, and he had an immigrant with him. I don't know if it was an illegal immigrant but it was an immigrant. And so around the DNC, there's these not huge walls, but there's these walls going around bordering the DNC, which they don't like walls around.
Yeah, you have to have an ID to get in.
That too, yeah. They don't want walls around America, but around the DNC, yeah, it's necessary. And the hundreds of police officers outside. But anyway, the guy took the illegal immigrant in. He was trying to bring the guy into the DNC. He knew it wouldn't work because, of course, they rejected him because they needed an ID.
Yeah.
And so he took the guy into whatever the office where he could get his ID, and that guy rejected him too because he wasn't a proper citizen. So it's funny, like you can vote and you can come into America without an ID, that, and there's no wall, and you're cool with that. But for the DNC, let's protect our top officials. You have to have an ID, and we're going to put walls around, and we believe in defunding the police, but not for today.
But journalism would call that out normally.
Right.
In the 70s and the 80s, even still, the journalists were pretty good at calling stuff like that out. No longer.
No.
They're and both sides have gone to the extreme. on the right and on the left. The news media is unfortunately the very few outlets actually just report news. Now there are some new ones coming out that just do news, which is great. But I don't like it that we don't have an independent source that literally just tells us what's going on without their bias added to it.
The only reliable news source is X, Twitter.
Yeah, well, pretty much, but even then now, I don't know if you notice as much as I have, but there are so many fake videos out there. You can't believe what you're seeing. Yeah. So you kind of have to research pretty much everything that comes up to see, and even the research you can't depend on half the time either. So it's getting more and more difficult to verify the validity, to validate something, whether it's true or not.
But at least it's out there for us to see, whereas
Thank God it is.
On cable TV, it's not even out there. You can't verify it. It's just
forget anything. Anything on cable is all done. So right now it's going to be up to the independents and what happens with that and where that goes. Like I said, if Kamala and her ilk get into office, we are in serious trouble. I can't even imagine what the next 4 years could be like.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
DEI on exploding everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, this is the time for you guys to apply for jobs.
Yeah, right.
You don't need experience.
Nope.
All you got to do is go in and tell them, my pronouns
I'm
are
black.
zir, her, whatever, and you're all set.
Well, so we got this clip here of Reverend Warnock or Senator Warnock.
Of all guys. What is he, a wife-beaten liar?
And
Whatever.
he's talking about Trump, and in the week after Trump was shot, you could hear the Democrats back off of the line saying that Trump is an existential threat to America. Not anymore. They're back to that.
No.
And this is primetime DNC, and they're back to saying that again.
Donald Trump's America is the America of January 6th. People who have no vision traffic in division. He does not know how to lead us, and so he wants to divide us. America, make no mistake, Donald Trump is a plague on the American conscience. He is a clear and present threat to the precious covenant we share with one another.
The true facts here that I saw were pretty interesting. The number of times that they brought up different topics. Trump got Trump won again.
Yeah.
Way up there.
Trump trumped them all, baby.
Yeah.
They talk about him and they still don't get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Trump posted a graph of words they used. So border and inflation and whatever, prices, gas, whatever. They were low. And Trump is way up there. Everything
175 or 174 different times.
I think that was on the first night.
Though. Yeah, on the first night. Yeah, that's right. So between now and then and now, who knows how many times they brought up Trump, but a lot more than actual topics.
Oh, and super quick before we close, I think we should talk about the truck thing that was outside of the DNC, where over 25 abortions happened.
Yes. Yeah. Now those were pills.
Okay.
They induced abortions,
right?
And I don't know. I think they were offering vasectomies to her something, man.
Yeah.
It's like, most of those guys, they probably should do it. I mean, they're never going to use anything, so it might be a good thing. But the DNC, offering that is a shocking thing to a Christian, at least from my perspective.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's just absolutely shocking. And America is okay with it in general terms because there was no outrage over it.
No.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
Yeah.
That's scary.
In like 2008 or something.
Yeah.
I saw there was some clips of Hillary and Joe Biden. The way they talked about abortion was that it's a horrible thing, but if it's necessary, we should do it. But it's absolutely horrible. It's not something to be celebrated.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know what? We're gonna put like a food truck or forget the food truck. We'll just do vasectomies and abortions. Like that's cool.
Absolutely. It's kind of like just setting up a big idol of the god of Moloch, which is who they used to be able to offer, who they used to offer their children to.
Right.
People talk about that and they might think we're crazy, but that's a biblical truth
and historical truth.
Yeah, and historically true. And yet here we have Democrat National Committee and most all Democrats believing in, the wild extremes of abortion right up to the day of birth. And now some even going beyond that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and some people are saying that this raises the stakes. I don't think it does. I think it just clarifies what the stakes have been.
Mm-hmm.
And we can see now this is the modern day Democrat Party.
It is. But the other side to this is also, we got Bill Gates and all these others. They're trying to reduce world population.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried through a pandemic and all the lies about climate change and all this other stuff. Look, if they can keep killing babies, that's one way. But here's what happens. Our birth rate is so low.
Yeah.
That's why they're bringing in immigrants. They're having children at a crazy rate.
Yeah.
So they're going to overrun the United States. Just in one generation, there won't be whites anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll be there, but we'll be such a minority, it won't matter anymore.
In the past 50, 60 years, we've had 60 million immigrants into this nation.
Isn't that amazing?
I mean,
yeah.
People talk about multiculturalism. It doesn't work. You can't have an entirely different culture move into your country and keep society the way it is. But there's the issue.
Right.
The Democrats don't want society to stay the way it is.
No, they don't.
They don't like it.
They don't want it. They want to destroy America the way it is because they want us to be just like the rest of the world so that a one world government could come in. When Biden and Harris stole the election in 2020 and they realized that they got by the skin of their teeth, the news media covered it, and everybody kind of just, thought Trump and all of us were crazy by calling it out as being rigged. They knew something was, so they had to open the borders.
Yeah.
Because they knew that this was their only chance. And they had to do it now. They could do it. They were undercover, and they still are. Cover of the media. And so they're just letting them in by the droves and hoping that they will vote Democrat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So, even if Trump does win this election term, this election cycle, it's only 4 years. Who's behind him? Of course, J.D. Vance, but he's still young. I don't know. And where this country goes from there, anybody can guess.
I guess we'll have to see. But on that note, let's head over to Ask Pastor Mike.
We have to use Scripture against the enemy in order to get him to flee. You got to stick with the Word, though. You can't hit him with anything else. It's got to be the Word of God.
All right, so Pastor Mike, which tradition in Christianity is best? Orthodox, Reformed, or Catholic?
None of them. It's the best thing is a relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, that's really what it's all about. It's not about following a tradition or religion. But, there are three main branches of Christianity, if you look at it that way. Mm-hmm. Catholicism is where we kind of all come from, although it wasn't called that then. It was just the united church united. That Catholicism, the word means unity. That's really what it comes down to. And so the church was just the church. And then there was a break off for a lot of reasons, but mainly it came down to money and power and, paying for, basically getting your sins forgiven. And so the reformers, Calvin and Martin Luther and, all these others, we broke off. We became the Reformed Church,
so
protesters.
So by Reformed, you mean like Protestant?
Yeah. Yeah, all the different, you got them all, Baptist and Calvinism comes from Baptist.
Okay.
Then you got Methodists and, God, they go on and on and on. I mean, you could sit here. Yeah, there's like 2,000 different,
really,
believe it or not, 2,000 different denominations. That all broke off. Of course, the main ones, like I said, the main ones, if you're, Presbyterian and Methodist and, those are the main, denominations. Okay. But 2,000 different. It's crazy. And then we have the Eastern Orthodox, which is very closely related to Catholicism. They hold to all the icons in the church, the different statues of Mary and all the saints and all that stuff. But they have a different take on the Trinity than Catholicism does. And than we do in the Protestant, Reformed church. So, when people are looking for a church, I always tell people, or looking for a way to worship God, probably a better way. I always tell people, don't look for something, just look for a relationship with Jesus. And then it really comes down to how you want to express that relationship in your life, what works out. I grew up Catholic. And I had a great Catholic upbringing. I wasn't abused by my priest. I wasn't abused by anybody. Other than the nuns did slap me around a couple of times, but I definitely deserved it. I pushed a kid through a fish tank in the back of our classroom in 7th grade.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't do it on purpose. I pushed him. He tripped and his head smashed into the fish tank, and fish and water went all over the floor. And Sister Elizabeth Mary backhanded me. She gave me a backhand.
really?
Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I deserved it, but I went home and told my dad. And my dad went to the school. Boy, he told that poor nun off. But, I really deserved it. I was being a bad boy. But, I had good nuns, good priests. They really believed in what they were, espousing.
Mm-hmm.
They really did. So that was all great. But the older I got, the more I realized that the people in the religion were good. The people in the church were good that I had in my local church. But the hierarchy of Catholicism was just perverted. And so I ended up finding this book. I can't remember who gave it to me or where it came from. It was called The Decline and Fall of the Roman Catholic Church.
Oh, yeah, I read
by
that.
Malachi Martin.
Yeah.
And I think I gave you that book, or I told you about it.
You recommended it.
Yeah, and it was eye-opening. And I remember I devoured that entire book.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, the popes were killing each other.
Yeah.
Man. They were looking to get no power, and they were having sex with the nuns. And wow,
Yeah.
this is like awesome. But yeah, not really. But it was, it was like a good story, but yet it was truth.
It's history, yeah.
And so it opened my eyes that there's good people, but anytime you have institutions, that's where there's a problem. And that's why a lot of people today, they'll say, well, I don't like institutionalized religion, right? You'll hear that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Even people your age, they'll say that. And I always say that's great because I don't like it either, And that's why we started a church. We're independent, non-denominational. We have a board of people above us that I'm answerable to for my life. But we don't have all these rules and regulations.
Yeah.
It's more about a personal relationship, with you and God. And I'm not here to tell you how to run your life or how to live your life or what you should do or shouldn't do like the church did. But it's that I'm here as a guide, basically.
Right.
If you want advice, it's available. I suggest you take it when you can.
Yeah.
But it's not my advice. It's what the Word of God says.
So do you agree with the C.S. Lewis quote? I can't remember exactly how it goes, but he says, in essence, you've got a hallway, and in the hallway you have many doors. And we'll just say 3 for now. You've got the Orthodox door, you've got the Catholic door, and you've got the Reformed door. And each door leads to heaven, but I should say each door leads to God. It's just a preference of which you would like to choose.
I do believe that in general terms, absolutely. It's just that there are some doors that you should never open, even though they call themselves Christian. There are some denominations that shouldn't be called denominations.
Like what?
Well, there are some that considered to be denominations. The average Christian will think of something like, for instance, we had Mitt Romney running for president, not too long ago. And I liked the guy, at least I did, before his true colors came out. But I figured, whatever. But he belonged to, the Church of Latter-day Saints, a Mormon. When you study Mormonism, you realize they're a cult. The definition of a cult is someone who doesn't believe in the deity of Jesus Christ. And there are a host of those kind of denominations, if you will, out there where they don't believe Jesus Christ was God. So those, I would say, stay away from.
Okay.
In fact, that's a pretty controlling environment to be in if you really look into it.
Yeah.
And the people that run it, very weird. They own a lot of property all around the world, too, as well, including in the United States. Yeah. Huh. I mean, like millions of acres of land. I wonder what for.
So what is Eastern Orthodoxy and Catholicism and the Reformed Church? How does that, can you break down where we started and then how we kind of trickled down into these 3 major categories?
Well, that's really, you said it right. It's a trickle-down effect, So, here's the church and, Jesus leaves the disciples, and the disciples go out and start discipling people, and the church grows, and it's growing and growing, and it becomes a living organism, people in charge and people doing things. And then the more people get involved, the more man is involved, the more chance for corruption. Yeah. And so as that kind of reared its ugly head, people said, no, we think that that's wrong. And so we're not going to hang with you anymore. We're going to go off on our own.
Okay, so they're going against Catholicism then?
Well, they went against the certain elements of Catholicism, and they were outspoken about it. They said, look, we need to fix this so that we can remain unified. They didn't want to just break off. Most times, all of these things happen because of disagreements that couldn't be ironed out.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's a general answer to your question, but...
So it seems like we started out with Jesus, and then when he was gone, we had the apostles, and they taught around for a bit, and then the first universal church, if we will, is Catholicism?
Pretty much.
That really rooted up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it never had that title. That was a title that happened later. But you heard of like church splits, like even today. Like let's say, just take something out of the news. Pastor has an affair with a worship leader.
Yeah.
Okay. And he divorces his wife and goes with the worship leader. So now there's of these few hundred people, 50 of them are still faithful to the pastor because they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yep.
But they don't realize he's a lying, conniving, cheating adulterer.
Right.
And then the rest of the people go off somewhere else and either start their own church or join another. Well, that's pretty much what it was. They couldn't come together. There was no forgiveness. It was a split.
Okay.
And then the split led to fractions.
All right.
Factions.
Okay.
Fractions. I don't know.
Factions, yes.
Yeah, factions.
So
it broke off.
In the
How's
Catholic
that?
in the Catholic Church, you have a pope, obviously, and
I
he's
always
like
want one of those hats.
yes.
Mitre? I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, I
mitre.
think so.
Yeah, I want one.
We'll have to get you one.
Just want to wear a mitre.
So you've got the Pope, and the buck stops
And a
with
staff.
him. The buck stops with him, if you will. And so
Yeah,
when you have
a lot of bucks.
when you have disagreement over theology,
Mm-hmm.
basically it goes up to him, and he makes the final decision. What do you say to the people who aren't sure whether they want to be Protestant or Catholic, and they say, well, in the Protestant sect, if you will, you don't have any central authority. So when you get disagreements among Protestants, how do you resolve that? And how can the Protestants call themselves like Protestants as a whole? Because, I mean, their beliefs are so widely varied.
Very much so. And it will always be like that because anytime there's men, there's going to be disagreements. If you want to believe that one man, the Pope in this case, has basically the ability to hear from God and speak for God, okay?
Yeah.
That one man, he speaks for God. If you can live with that, if you could believe that, good luck. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah.
Good luck. If you could believe that, maybe, you could live with that. Me personally, I tend to take the route of, Christianity is all about all of us being sinners, broken vessels that only through Christ are we able to accomplish anything. And so I don't look to one man, just like I tell our congregation, don't look to me. Okay, I will make mistakes. I'll let you down. I'm going to fail you, guaranteed, because I'm human. I know me. I know it's going to happen. And instead, look to God. We do the best that we can. And so, again, I think religion has, if I can use the word, evolved to a place where I think we have the ability to make a decision, to have a personal relationship with Jesus that involves a local body of believers, because that's according to Hebrews. It tells us to, don't forsake coming together, assembling together, not because God wanted that to be a law for him, but for our sake.
Yeah.
Because when we come together in unity, when we come together to worship God, there's a strength there. We build each other up. We encourage one another. Together, we're able to do things that a single we can't do.
Yeah.
At our church, we have a couple of missions. We have one down in Paraguay where we take care of hundreds of children and families on a regular basis. And that couldn't happen. It was just a couple of people.
Right.
But united, we could do great things together. So we have that ability today to be able to do that. And I encourage people, if you're not church, to find a good church. And there are many of them out there. There's no perfect people. There's no perfect church, because the minute you go there, forget it. It's not perfect anymore.
Good point.
You can definitely plug in and, find a way to get involved in a greater sense of community than yourself.
Right.
So nowadays you have a lot of people who say we don't need church anymore. Even Christians, they'll say like, we should just get rid of the church and just do small little home groups. What do you think about that?
Well, that's been around a long time, absolutely. As far as I can tell, we've had a big move of that in our area when we started our church.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. In fact, we started in our living room of our house in December of 2002. And I think we had 8 or 10 people. I don't even remember, something like that. It was in the second week of December of 2002.
Wow.
And 2 of those people that were in that really believed in the home church. That was their thing.
Yeah.
So the minute, we started growing, and I said, well, we've got to move to a school. They were like, oh, well, we don't want to go there. And really what it came down to, and I found this out later, it came down to only one thing. What do you think?
Money.
There you go, brother. We hit it right in there. It came down to money. Because they said, well, we don't need to have money now because we're a small church. I go, that's right. We don't need it. The problem is you're using my house, my electricity,
your money,
and my money, and you're not helping and giving. And besides that, I'm willing to donate my time and our electricity and our house and, all the stuff we have to do to clean after your ugly feet leave my house. Well, I'm willing to do all that. But as a church, how can we affect the community if we don't give together in a common way to be able to affect the community?
Yeah.
And they couldn't see that. And that's the problem with the small church. It usually becomes small and stays small because they have no vision for anything greater. Now, the original church was small, met house to house, but they always collected offerings. And it always went to Jerusalem. And it talks about that all through the Bible and the New Testament. You can see they picked up the offering and they went and they brought it to Jerusalem. To who? To the leadership. That's the example. And that's what they did. And so, I tend to believe, I think home churches are a great idea. And I would encourage them as long as they are a part of the bigger body.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way we can really be effective.
Yeah, because
my opinion.
Jesus didn't say, sit and chill and have some good food and talk about the word. He said, go out and make disciples.
Go out and make disciples. And that's beyond our 4 walls.
Yeah.
And no matter how, now, of course, on the other extreme side of that, we have, home church, small church. The average church in the United States is, 50 to 65 people. That's what the average church is in the United States. The majority of them, like 90-some%.
Okay.
The rest of them are what's called mega churches. Anything over 500 is considered to be a mega church.
Really? Okay.
The difference is stark.
Yeah.
Mega churches are so big that it's very hard. Now, many of them do it well. They're still able to minister to the smaller groups and even to the individual. They've mastered it. There are some good people. Greg Gershell is one. He is the largest church in the country right now, Life Church. And they have many branches. He does a great job. He's a specific leader for this period and this time. And I respect that and I honor that. But in general, most mega churches are not able to do as well as they need to by getting down to the actual, visitation. Is somebody visiting so-and-so who's sick in the hospital?
Yeah.
Is somebody, taking care of this couple that just broke up and get divorced? Because that's really what church is supposed to be all about. The day-to-day needs, cares, of a shepherd.
Right.
So, large, small.
Yeah.
Middle is nice.
Yeah.
So you've got these 3 major groups. Is there something in each of one of them that you would say, or many things in each one that is good? Like, so the Catholics, they tend to focus a lot on the logic of the faith, whereas you have the Protestants who tend to be more focused on the individual salvation. Do you think that there are good things in all 3?
Oh, absolutely. I've had some great friends that were priests.
Yeah.
I traveled all over the world with one. And there's another guy who was a great priest for over 30 years in a couple of different parishes in the city where I grew up. And we were friends and stayed friends. And I think there's a lot of good. One thing with Catholicism is that the people who are true to faith and believe in what they're preaching and teaching, they are truly sold out to Christ. And the same thing in Eastern Orthodox. We find that there are really, now of course there's bad apples and everything, but I'm just saying in general, they happen to have a format that develops people to a place where they are in desiring a close relationship with God. which I believe. And the same thing with the Protestant. We probably have more of a weakness in that area than does Catholicism, but yet we have a strength because we allow for that oneness and close relationship to be spread to the entire congregation. Whereas both Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy is more about the hierarchy and the priests being in close relationship, and the peasants, the people, you know, well, you don't really need to read your Bible.
Yeah.
We'll read it for you, you know. So that's that's one part that really turned me off about Catholicism. When I found out, it's like, well, you know, you just have to take my word for it. You know, priests would do that a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I studied, and I read, you know, now when I was on equal footing with them, we would have different conversations. And I respect where they came from. I disagreed with a lot of what their conclusions were.
Yeah.
But yet, in general terms, I think that Protestantism offers much more to the average Christian than does Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy. So that's why I'm where I'm at. If I didn't, I would become a priest. Nah.
But you'd get to wear one of those cool hats.
Huh?
You'd get to wear one of those cool hats.
I get to wear a cool hat,
And a
Or I
scapula.
could be a cardinal or something. Or,
Yeah.
who knows? Yeah. It'd be awesome.
Right. But on that note, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. But ask your questions for the Ask Pastor Mike in the comment section, and we'll get to them next week.
Yeah, look forward to it. Give me some good questions, will you? Let's have some
Controversial
fun.
ones, yeah.
All right.